Hello, am I audible now? Okay, fine. Thank you. So let me repeat. In the servlet lifecycle, you will understand how the servlet is created, how it services the client, and how it is destroyed. So in the servlet lifecycle, first the container will hit. See, first you have got this server, and then within the server you have got this web container. And when you are deploying the servlet at that point of time, it reads this file, web.xml file. This web.xml file it is called as deployment descriptor file, which contains all the configuration information related to the servlets. Now, over here it says servlet, servlet. Your servlet name is authentication and servlet class is com.example.login. That is, it is giving the instruction to the web server to load this login file. So this login class is loaded. This login class it loads because over here you find it is giving the instruction to the server that it has to load com.example.login. So your container starts loading the login class after it reads this information from web.xml. Then after that it calls the constructor for that servlet. Once the constructor is called for that servlet, it creates the object. Servlet object is created. After servlet object has been created, it creates another object called servlet config object. This servlet config object contains information related to the configuration of the servlet. If you want any configuration to be done while the server is starting up, if you want any configuration to be done when the server is starting up, that information you can write it in servlet config. After that, it calls the init method. To this init method, it passes the servlet config object. After that, now over here, if you see, now the servlet is ready. After init method, your servlet is ready, that it's ready to service the clients. Now, if you see, this is the first client to whom that is the request is coming, and this is the first client to the first request. Now, HTTP is the protocol name, and localhost is the name of the server. Localhost is the name of the server. 15124 is the port on which your server is running. Login app is the name of your application, like Gmail, Yahoo is the name of the application. From that, the request is coming to login.do. From that, the request is coming to login.do. That is, login.do is mapped to this servlet. Login.do is mapped to this servlet. So if you see login.do is mapped to this authentication servlet or login servlet. Now, when the request comes, it calls the service method. Now, when the second request comes, it will call another service. It will call the service method. That is, for this request, your web container will create a thread and hand over the thread to this client request. When the second request comes, the web container again it creates another thread and hands over the thread to this. Sorry, and hands over the client to this thread. And then again, when the third request comes, your web container again will create a new thread and hand over the request to this thread. So that is the reason we call that it is thread based. You don't have to write any code for multi-threading. Multi-threading code is written by the container. Container will take care of all the multi-threading code that is required to handle the multiple client requests. We need not write any multi-threading code. And then this is the destroy method. At the end, it will call the destroy method. Destroy method will be called when you are deploying the server. So this is the complete life cycle. Now, public class login extends HTTP server. So if you see, if you have written this code, first the container will call which method? Init method. After it has called the init method, for each client request, it is calling your do get or do post. Now, when it is done, at the end, it calls the destroy method. So if you observe from this diagram, your init method is and the destroy method is called only once during the life cycle of the server. Whereas your do get or do post, that is your service method, is called for each client request. I repeat, your servlet will have three lifecycle methods. One is init, service, and the destroy. Init and the destroy method is called only once during the lifecycle of the servlet. Whereas your service method or do get or do post is called for each client request. One, two, three. Now we said you have got web.xml file. This web.xml file will contain all configuration information related to the servlet. That is, whenever you're creating any servlets, you have to register that with this web.xml file. Whenever you're creating the servlets, I repeat, it has to be registered with web.xml file. So how do you register? So in order to register the servlets with the web.xml file, you take help of the servlet. Your servlet name is XYZ name, and the some alias name what you are giving to the servlet. We are keeping it same login. Servlet name. Servlet class is the fully qualified name of the class. I repeat, servlet name is the alias name that is given by the developer. Servlet name is the alias name given by the developer, and servlet class is the actual name of the class that is given by the developer. Fully qualified name of the class. I repeat, servlet class is the fully qualified name of your servlet. So you're creating your servlet and from.example.login package. And now if you observe over here, you have got something which is called as init parameter. Initialization parameter. That is, whenever we are starting the servlet, I want this information to be ready. I want this parameters. I want some information to be ready before it starts servicing the file. So what are we doing is public void init servlet config. So you have to read this information in your servlet. So you have to read this. You have to read this in this. So in order to read this, you have got string email config dot get init parameter of email. So it reads this parameter. You provide the key, it will give you the value. If you provide key, it will give you the value. So so when the container, if you observe, when the container is creating the servlet config object, it reads this init parameter from the servlet. It reads this init parameter email and tests the rate gmail.com. After it reads this init parameter, it stores these parameter in the servlet config object. I repeat, when it is creating the servlet, it reads this in the servlet config object. Now, then it calls the servlet config object. Then it calls the init method. For us calling the init method, this config object will have access to this. This config object is having access to this. Are we clear so far? And then in order to read, you have got get init parameter method. You provide the key, it will return you test at the rate gmail.com. You provide the key that is email, that will return you test at the rate gmail.com. See, now it reads. Then for each client request, it calls this one. Now when it is done, it calls the destroy. I am looking for one PPT. Hello, am I audible now? Okay, fine. Now, let us write the code. Let me delete all this stuff. Mm. So Java, now web application, click next, and servlet lifecycle. Now, when you see over here, you have got source packages. Right click, new. Let us create a servlet. First, let us create a form.sample. Now, when we said whenever you are creating the package, it should be reverse name. Let's say if your website name is mindsmap, it should be comms.mindsmap.controller. Your servlet will fall under controller. comms.mindsmap.controller. So over here, right click, new servlet. The name of the servlet what we are giving is login. Click login servlet. Click next. You can select the start.information to web.xml and then finally you can click file. Now once you have clicked this, so you need to override either do get or do post. There are the types of methods that are available, do get or do post. So when you are overriding these two methods, do get and do post. Sorry, we said we have got three lifecycle methods: public, void, init, servlet, config, add import statement, and then public void destroy. System.out.println init method. and then system.out.println. This is the service method. I repeat, service method is called for each client request. System.out.println. This is the destroy method call. So init and this method will be called only once, whereas the destroy method will be called during the life cycle of the servlet. Now what are we doing is we are connecting this servlet to this. Href is equal to here pass this name. That is when you click on this link, it should call the login servlet. So let me execute this. Right click and then say run. Now let me say run. So we're starting. In the meantime, let us understand what is flip.xml file. So whenever the client is sending the request, it is obvious the client will send the request to your URL. The client will send the request through the URL. So this is how we are sending the request. HTTP localhost and then some port number 5124, and then what is the name of the application? Login. This is the name of the application. Servlet lifecycle. See, let me copy this. This is the name of the application. Servlet lifecycle. Within that, okay, this index.html. So when you're sending this request, this is how you get. So this is the embedded browser within the NetBeans. This is what we are using. So you'll get this. So this is the embedded browser. Now, once you hit this, okay, when you're clicking on this, see if you click on this, your request is going to this login server. Your request is going to the login servlet, and you have observed the output over here. Over here, it is printing init method and then the service method. And then again, if you are refreshing this page one more time, I'm just refreshing the page. The moment you refresh the page, again it is calling the service method. Let me just go back and then hit again login servlet. So if you observe the output for each client request, it is calling the service method, whereas init method is called only once during the life cycle of the servlet. And then let us undeploy the servlet, undeploy the web application. So if you have to undeploy the web application, what you can do is you can go to the services tab, and then you can click on servers and then expand the glassfish node. After the glassfish node is expanded, please expand the application node, and then you can click over your servlet lifecycle and undeploy. When the servlet is being undeployed, at that point of time, it is going to invoke your destroy method. See. Init method is called when you are deploying the application, whereas destroy method is called when the web application is being undeployed. So let me try it one more time. Right click and then do deploy. And then next, right click, run. Servlet lifecycle on first client request. On the first client request, it calls the init method. Then for subsequent client requests, it only calls the service method. It only calls service method. Now, how does this works? So how this works is when the client is sending this, when the client is, how the servlet deploys is, over here, if you go under projects under web pages, you have under web INF folder, you have got another file called web.xml file. You've got another file called web.xml file. You've got this another file called web.xml file. Now let us learn what it is. Now, this web.xml file will contain all deployment related information to the server about the server. Now, you are writing login servlet over here. If you observe this, okay, you are writing login servlet over here. When you're writing login servlet over here, from here, this request will go to this login servlet. From here, it goes to here. Let me just drag this. Oh, yeah, fine. That's perfect. So we have got this three stuff. So when the client, okay, when you are hitting this URL, when you're hitting this URL, login servlet. So from here it goes over here. It reads this web.xml file. Then the container sees if there is any servlet by this name, if there is any servlet by with this URL pattern. If there is any, if it finds any matching servlet, then it calls this login servlet. From here, it goes to the servlet tag and then it finds is there any servlet by this name login servlet. When it finds, then what it does, it com.mindsmap.controller.login servlet. It goes to this class, this one. It goes to this class, that is this servlet. It goes to this servlet and load it. It goes to this, see, comms.mindsmap.controller.login servlet. It goes to this servlet and then it executes this. This is how it works. So when the client is sending the request, first this URL pattern will be executed. It checks whether we have got a servlet with this URL pattern. If it finds this, then it will read what is done, the alias name login servlet. Then it will go to this and then it will get this information. It will find this login servlet. Then from there com.mindsmap.controller.login servlet. It comes to this class and then it executes the do get or do post method. Is it clear how to write this? Okay. If you're not clear, just let me know. Roma, is it clear to you or do you have any confusion? If you have any confusion, just let me know so that we can discuss. Okay, if I don't receive response, I will proceed forward. I don't have any other option. Let us learn how to write this. Now, this information, the stack, whenever you're writing the code for the application, you have got three set of users: developers, people who will deploy, people who will develop the application, deployers, and then the client. So you have got three set of users. This is the developers. So this developers, when they are writing the application, let me just change this orientation to portrait so that I get some space. So this people, when they are writing, they will write this code. So your code. So this is the people who are writing this. Now, once the developers has given the name, so this is the class that has been written by the developer com.mindsmap.controller.login servlet. This servlet. This servlet will be written by the developers. So after they have written this code, they will give this name. So they have written this servlet class, and to this servlet class they have given this alien name. Now for security reasons, you don't give this and this name as same. Just for our sake of understanding, we are keeping it same. Later on, we'll discuss how to change it. So this name is given by the developers. So after this information will be passed on to the people who will deploy, the deployment staff. So this deployment staff is responsible for giving the alternate name to your server. The deployment. The deployment team will map this. Will listen. This one. And to the client, you will give only this name. To the client, when the client is accessing the web pages, when the client is accessing the web browser, you will give only this name. To the client, you just give this name. Oh. To the client, you just give this name. Let me just pull all this stuff to the next page. So to the clients, this is the name what you give to the client. It's not a thought. Let me cut it. Where's my cursor? So this is the name what is given to this people. And finally you have got this is the name that is given to the client. So your client will access this name. This one. This is the name that is given to the client. Clear with this? So well, let me do one thing. Let me draw a shape over here. So this is the client. So the client will access via this login servlet. So whenever the client is accessing, mm, Let me copy this. This is what the client will access through the web browser. Login servlet. So whenever the request is coming to this login servlet, so how does it goes is from here it goes to this servlet mapping file. From here it goes over. Then the container will see that there is a servlet, that there is a URL pattern with this login servlet. So once the container finds that there is a URL pattern with this login servlet, then it reads what is the name for this servlet. So once it reads the name for this servlet, so once it reads the name for this servlet, then it goes to this one. So once it goes to this, then it will find out, okay, that this is the class name that it has to execute. It will find out that fine, this is the final class that it has to execute. This is how it works. From here, it goes and find out, and from here it goes to the servlet mapping tag, and then it executes the actual class. Is there any doubt in this? Is it clear web.xml file? Okay. If you have any doubts, just let me know. Let us write that code. But most of the time, web.xml file is all automatically generated. It is automatically generated. And what you have to keep in mind is this one. This is how the client is accessing. So this and this should match. Let me double click. So this is how your client will access. Here, this code, this one, and this URL pattern should match. Otherwise, you will receive an error message. Now, next, if you want some initialization parameters, then you have to write it over here. Init hyphen param, and then you have got param name and param email. Param name, and then you have got param value. Clear with this? Now, if you have to retrieve this information in the login servlet, if I have to retrieve this information in the login servlet, as discussed, you have to retrieve it in the servlet config, this one. So what do I do is string email is equal to config.get init parameter of done. So that is going to print test@gmail.com. This email will contain this param value, test@gmail.com. So you can print it. System.out.println email is equal to plus. And then okay, we have got another parameter called load on startup. So if you are specifying it as 1, this will be started when you're deploying the application. That like your servlet will be initialized either on the first client request or when you are deploying the application. If you are setting this parameter, load on startup is equal to 1, then the servlet will be initialized when you are deploying the application. Now let us see that. Right click and then say deploy. I'm just deploying the application. Deploying is hosting the application on the web server. So let us see the browser logs. See, let me just clear this and then deploy. See, init method call. So if you're setting the parameter load on startup as 1, your servlet init method will be called. Your servlet will be initialized or your servlet will be loaded by the container. Your servlet will be loaded by the container at that point itself. If you don't write this load on startup, the servlet will be loaded on first client request. Now, if let me clear this and right click the projects, click deploy. See, over here you don't find the init method called. Init method will be called on first client request. When on the first client request, it will call the init method. Now, when you're calling it for the first time, that is when the request is coming for the first time, at that point it will be called. Click login servlet. Now it is going to call your init method on first client request. So this is all about servlet lifecycle. And when you are undeploying the application, destroy method will be called when you are undeploying the application. So how do you undeploy the application is you go to the services tab and then expand the Glassfish node. Under Glassfish, you can expand this one and servlet lifecycle and then do undeploy. I'll remove all this stuff. Window, output window. Let me view this. Now if you see observe over here, destroy method is called. So in the destroy method, you will write the code to clean up the resources. In the init method, you will write the code to initialize the resources, whereas in the destroy method, you will write the code to clean the resources. Clean the resources or release the resources, you can say, mode appropriate term. This one is used for initializing the resources, and the destroy method, you will use it for cleaning up the resources. Now, moving forward, um, now next we will discuss about session context. Uh, like I have sent an exercise document to all of you. I hope you have completed that. This was the exercise document which I have sent you over mail. I hope you have worked on that. Where's that? This was the document which I have sent. Have you completed this? This one. I haven't completed yet. Okay. Roman, did you complete this? Have you ever, like, did you even check this document? Registering the user, authenticating, and forget password. And try to do it by end of the day. You either today or tomorrow, whichever time is feasible to you. Just try to complete that and then mail it to me. Have you checked this document? Zahid, have you worked? Okay, and you are like, I have forwarded this document to you. Kindly request you to download and work on it. Okay, fine. Like more 50% of the code I have written, like string user request dot get parameter of username. Do the same for rest of the parameters. Because the form says it requires these fields: username, password, re-enter password. You should not, and then remove this, and then date of birth, and then the submit button. I have written the sample code for username. You have to do the same for the password, re-enter password, actual re-enter password you don't retrieve, and then the date of birth. And then in order to authenticate the user, you need to create one more web form that has got two fields. One is username, other one is password. And then again, you have to retrieve this in the login servlet. Again, as if you observe, I have written the sample code. You need to retrieve the username. You have to do the same to retrieve the password. String password is equal to request.get parameter of password. After you have retrieved both username and password, you have to write the condition to check whether the username and the password is valid. If you are well versed with the database, then you can connect to the database and find out whether the username and the password already exist. And if it exists, then you can redirect the user to home page. If it doesn't exist, then you can redirect the user back to the login page with an error message that the username and password is invalid. And then, okay, if you observe over here, again, I have written the code, write the code to store this error message in the request code. That is, you need to make use of request. So, need to use the database to store. Yes, if you want, you can. Like in the real time, when you do, that is obviously you connect to the database and then store it. Because we have already completed database concepts, yes, you can do it. But if in case you are not comfortable, you can just fix that. Like username, you can just fix it. Username dot equals. If you don't want to connect to database, this way you can fix it. And password dot equals. That is, it is going to work only for tom at the rate 123 because we are hard coding it. If you like in the initially you can do this way, but if you know how to connect to the database, yes, directly you have to get connected to the database, pass that username and password to the database, retrieve the results, and then decide what to do. Does this answer the question? And then without the database, how do I store the username and how to use them? Now look, without the database, if you want, you just have to simulate. What you can do is you can just store the information in an array. You can store some information in an array and then you have to use it. Over here, you have to keep some username and some password fixed, and then you have to loop through the array and then check it. Or you can go with the file system. So either you have to go with the database implementation or file system implementation or memory-based implementation. You've got three choices. You can either go with the memory-based implementation, or you can go with the file system, or you can go with the databases, which without the data. Or else this is the one. You have to just hard code it. So whichever you are comfortable at, you can go ahead with that. And then again, we have got forget password servlet. Create the form to prompt the user to enter the email address, and that should be redirected to this forget password. And string email, retrieve it. Check whether the email is registered with the database or not. If the email is registered with the database, you need to retrieve the password from the database and have to use the Java Mail API to send the password. If you want to send the password, whatever like as you have retrieved to the email, yes, you can send it to the email using Java Mail API if you're comfortable. If in case if you're not comfortable, you can just display the password onto the screen. That's it. If you're comfortable, use Java Mail API to send the password to the email or just display it onto the screen. Your choice. So this was the exercise document what I have said. I expected, I thought you people will do. But anyway, I have explained it. Just try to do it and just try to do it by tomorrow. Okay, now we will start with the session concepts. No, we don't have time. So we'll wind up for today because we don't have time. We can start with this session concept. And one more thing, I had a previous batch which I'm closing it tomorrow. For that sake, uh, tomorrow's only for tomorrow. We will start the session at 8. Like daily, we are starting the session at 7:30. But like in the previous, I had a previous batch which I'm closing tomorrow. For that reason, for one day, we will start the session at 8. And then again from Wednesday, we will be starting on the regular time. So only for tomorrow, we'll start at 8. And then again from Wednesday, we will start at 7:30. Am I clear to all of you regarding the tomorrow's time? Only for tomorrow, we will be starting at 8. And then again from Wednesday, we will be starting at 7:30. So Tuesday, only for Tuesday, that is at 8 because I have to close one batch. And then again from Wednesday we will be starting at 7:30. So try to complete all the exercises and then tomorrow we will be starting with session. So I have forwarded the document to all of you. Like 50% it is already done. You have to just insert few snippets and it will be done. So if you're perfect with this, then you will be starting with how to implement session, how to build a website, and how to authenticate the user. With this, I'll wind up the session for today. If you have any questions, do mail me.